Side sessions here with the director of amateur scouting, Frankie Piliere. I figure we just spend the next 20 minutes on who you guys are taking seventh overall. That sound good?
If you've got it figured out, please let me know.
I heard you in a previous interview refer to the draft as a puzzle. And I'm fascinated by that because, like the NBA draft, typically you take the guy that is the best fit for your team. When the NFL draft, you need a quarterback, you take a quarterback. This one is a little different. And obviously, you're playing the slot game. What excites you about the puzzle of the MLB draft?
It's really 1 through 20. A lot of attention gets put on the first round of the draft, but there are good players throughout the draft. And it's really a game of evaluation, and evaluation, which makes it very cool. Like, there are only certain things you can do. So there are some boundaries that you're limited by money in each round. You can play with that money a little bit, but it really ends up being a puzzle where you have this certain amount of money to play with. You know, there are certain amount of major leaguers out there. They're there somewhere. Sometimes they come in the later rounds, sometimes they come early. But if you can put them together better than other teams can,
Yeah.
you win.
When did you get fascinated by this? Like when you were, I don't know, X years old, maybe, it's when your playing career fizzled out, whenever
Mhm.
that may have been. When did you really want to dive into the draft side? Obviously, there are a lot of people like I grew up saying, hey, I want to work in baseball. If I'm not going to play, I want to work in baseball. But when did you zero in on the amateur side?
I think it was probably I grew up watching the Yankees, and I grew up watching the prime of the Yankee years and then the tail end of the Yankee years. And I remember thinking when they started to not win anymore, the player evaluation side started to really fascinate me
Mhm.
because I was wondering, why are the Angels beating the Yankees in 2002?
Yeah.
Why did the Yankees lose in 2001? Then I started to realize the people that were behind evaluating these players. Where are these new players coming up?
Yeah.
Where did they come from? And I remember being probably my early teen years, just really fascinated by that part of it. Where are these players actually coming from?
Okay. So I know that you've had this conversation with a couple of other people within the organization before, and you've been on this program before, and
Mhm.
you kind of talked about the path to get here. But in terms of laying out the path, you went in the editorial direction for
Mhm.
a little bit. You worked at Fangraphs, you worked at D1 Baseball.
Mhm.
So okay, you get into writing. How did you kind of make that jump from writing to the pursuit of actually working for an organization? I'm sure that was a dream for a while.
Yeah, there was a little bit of back and forth push and pull. I knew my skill set was writing, but I also was really, really fascinated by the evaluation part. And I think for a while it was, how do I teach myself how to do this? How do I get better at this? And I had some opportunities early. I did some pro scouting early with the Texas Rangers, kind of getting my footing under me, trying to figure out how to be a scout, but I always knew I could communicate it well on paper. And I've said to a lot of young scouts coming up now, and luckily I can pay this forward, you need to make a lot of mistakes and scout a lot of players, do it wrong, write it down, record your thoughts, and see how it plays out over time. And luckily, that's what I had a chance to do. It's a little different doing it for an audience. You're catering to a little different speed of, it's less nitty gritty, a little bit more fluffy at the time, but you're still recording your thoughts.
Yeah.
You're still writing it down. And that's really what it is, because you're going to be wrong so much in this business, really, really wrong. You need to write it down and hold yourself accountable to it. So that was pretty cool.
We're chatting with Frankie Piliere, the director of amateur scouting for the Marlins. Do you remember during your writing days and a chance to kind of gas yourself up? Do you remember the first guy that you were really right on? You feel like you nailed a certain guy, and that could be 5 years down the road. Hey, this guy turned out to be, really solid big leaguer. Or maybe you were looking at him in the college ranks and this freshman's awesome. He ends up going top five.
I won't use the writing examples because I don't think that's fair to
Okay.
it's, but I will give you Cal Raleigh, who is on the other side of the field today. That was one where had a gut feeling at the time, really liked Cal out of the ACC, and he's gone on to be a really good big leaguer for the M's, and I'm happy for him. And that was one early on. Cal was my first draft room in Seattle. It was the first time I got to be a full part of the draft room, and it's really fun to watch it come to fruition.
And Cal Raleigh, now one of six catchers to sign an $100 million extension. So, good win, Frankie Piliere. Nice job.
Yeah.
Obviously, you spent 6 years here. We're chatting in Seattle at T-Mobile Park in the third base dugout. What's it like being back here in a different capacity with a different organization?
It is a little bit, it's bizarro world in some ways. Everything is in reverse. I'm on the other side. I'm on the other opposite side dugout right now. Come in different entrances. Obviously, it's great to see a lot of people that I know, good friends of mine. There's a lot of great people here. So that's pretty cool. But it is kind of it's nostalgic and a little strange in a lot of
Yeah.
ways too.
I'm sure you said you had to go through about 5, 6 more security people
Oh yeah.
than you did when you were a Mariners employee, but here you are with Miami. Um, Really talented people on the amateur scouting side with Seattle, right? Scott Hunter is a name that jumps out. Obviously, you have Dre DePoto and Jeff Hollander over there as well. But I am curious, in terms of what you learned from guys over there, and I'm not asking you to divulge any state secrets on their side. How did they help you grow as an evaluator?
It's a cliche, but it's process. It's going through players in a very methodical way. This isn't 20, 30, 40 years ago where someone kind of pounds their fists and says, I want this guy's better. Evidence-based decision making. It's being really thorough with how you talk about players, being really fair about players, building them up, breaking them back down, and just being extremely thorough. That's the best thing I can say about what I know these guys over there still do. And we're building here and hopefully be even better than anybody out there.
Why was the jump to Miami from Seattle the right move? Obviously, you go from being an assistant director to being a director. You get to run your own apartment, your own department. You get to, run a draft. But aside from that, why did you feel comfortable making this jump?
Yeah, I think you made the right point. Like obviously anybody who does what I do, you'd like to run your own draft. You'd love to be in that chair. But at the end of the day, it was Peter.
Yeah.
Peter's vision and what Peter believed in, we believe the same things. And obviously you want the job, you want to do it, but I would have felt a lot less comfortable doing it if it wasn't Peter, and he's been great.
We don't want to give away anything. And I'm not trying to put you in a position here to walk you through the tightrope, but I do want to get, kind of your concepts when it comes to evaluating college talent and high school talent. I want to start with college talent too.
Yeah.
There are some things that could be viewed as like red flags when evaluating a college player. When you look at college hitters, if they strike out a lot, you worry that the strikeout rate is going to elevate a little bit when they get the Pro Bowl.
Yep.
What are some of the things that jump out to you when evaluating a college bat, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it. The strikeouts and the contact, and the ability to make contact is a very, very big deal. Doesn't mean those players can't turn it around. There are good players out there that we had high on the board last year, and I'll have high on the board this year that strike out. But it's usually because they have something else, and they have another club in their bag, so to speak. They can really defend. They can really run. They might get on base a lot. They may walk. The exit velocities may be very high. It's all sort of like the scales of justice with these players. They can do other things to outweigh that, but you do have to be aware of certain flags historically are just harder and more difficult to get beyond.
I want to hit the four quadrants, right? College hitter, college pitcher, high school hitter, high school pitcher. Let's go to college pitcher here because, we were just talking about Bryce Miller and Brian Wu, guys that were not first round talents, that you saw Logan Evans, who's making his major league debut a little bit later today. Obviously, you're not hearing this on Sunday, but, he's making his debut today. That was an 11th round pick out of Pittsburgh, and this guy had an ERA around 7. With college pitchers, are there data points that you look for? Obviously, having a 2 ERA is awesome, over 100 innings and striking out the world, but what jumps out to you about college pitchers in particular?
Well, what's been great over the last, let's call it 10 years especially, is we have so much data on the pitchers.
Yeah.
And there's so much data underneath besides just the surface level back of the baseball card performance. So I think that the league and the industry as a whole has been really good on the pitching side. Some teams are a little ahead of others, but if you know the underlying pitch data of these guys, we just have the treasure trove at this point. And if you get beyond a little bit of the surface level performance, look at how he moves. Are the strikes good? Some of these guys, the college baseball environment is tricky. They get hit a little bit. They get wood bat, different ball, different setting, professional development. Yeah. Things can change really quickly.
Yeah, and they have an opportunity to kind of showcase that across a bunch of different places. High school's a little bit more interesting, and I'm sure more of a challenge. It can turn into a bit of a crapshoot. In terms of high school hitters, is it really like, hey, these guys get to All-American games and showcases? I'm sure you want to see them against elite competition, but when you go to a cold weather state like Illinois or Indiana and you scout out a first-round high school type talent, what can you look for against a guy, that's throwing like 80 miles an hour?
That's the thing. It is with high school players in general, and especially the high school bats, you need to see them, see them, see them, and see them. It's sample size and accumulating your portfolio on these guys because you're just not going to get a lot. We talk a lot about low information decision-making environments. Yeah. That is sort of the ultimate low information decision-making environment. And the only way to do it is a lot of video, a lot of firsthand looks, as many things as we can measure, we do. The showcases are hugely important in the summer. because it's one of the very few times that we're going to see them against anything.
Yeah.
And it's kind of always the thing we're spinning and racking our brain on is how do we make this information a little bit better? It's never going to be great or perfect, but how do we just turn the dial a little bit?
High school pitchers, is it a little bit more simple because you do have the data points, you have spin, you have velo, everything to kind of look at?
Simpler, but also at the same time that they change so much, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse when they get in pro ball. Different baseball, less controlled environments, because that's the thing about you may see a guy in a showcase in the summer where he's pitching once every 8 or 9 days and he's throwing as hard as he can on that day. Makes it very, very tricky to know what is actually going to show up when he gets on a professional mound. Who is he? Sometimes it looks different. Sometimes it's better and sometimes it's worse.
Okay, Frankie Piliere, last couple for you. How are the hotel points looking? Are they good? Are you jet setting?
I'm in a great spot. Great spot. Well into the millions.
The airline miles, you good too?
Not as good as you'd think because you sometimes have to jump around on the airlines a little bit. So I have, a little bit of each brand there.
What has the last month or so looked like for you? Obviously, we are into the thick of the college season and the high school season. How many days a week are you on the road?
It really varies. Sometimes what I've tried to do is have a couple days where I just sit at a desk and go through our information and do it in a little bit more of a modern way. We pride ourselves on that here, but it's probably an average of 6, maybe 5 at times, and it's important, and it's about how we use the time now. We try to do it a little bit differently and try to really focus on where can we go that is really hard to get information. So I try to focus on that part when I travel.
Frankie Piliere, appreciate the time.
Of course, absolutely.
All right, this has been Side Sessions. We will talk to you soon.